In today's video, I'm going to be wrapping up the two-part series that I've been doing on how to play the Kingdoms TCG. In today's specific video, I'm going to be wrapping up what your turn looks like, what you can do, and also explaining any other small intricacies within the game. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. Hey YouTube, Tyler here with the Kingdoms TCG, and I want to thank you for clicking on this video. As per usual, like, subscribe, do whatever you want to do so that way you can stay in touch with what videos I am posting out on a weekly basis, hopefully every Saturday, Sunday. So like I said in the beginning, I'm going to be going over how to play the game, wrapping up this two-part series, and I'm going to throw the camera down facing at the game mat so that way I can show you how to go, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so to continue the series on how to play the game. So in last week's video, we went over how to set up the game, on how you have a certain amount of zones that you can play cards in. We went over your draw phase, which is very simple. And then we went over your prepare phase, which is your phase in which you can call cards to the field, and you can set up spells and play tokens, and kind of preparing you for the attack phase. So to start off this video, we are going to go over the attack phase. Now in the attack phase, you cannot play any more cards. So when you are entering your attack phase, you need to make sure your opponent knows, and so that way they can also keep you in check to make sure you are not playing any cards that you are not allowed to play. So the way the attack phase works is selecting one battle card or legend at a time. You then choose one other battle card, one legend, or one sacred at a time that your opponent has to attack. Sometimes people want to say, okay, I'm just going to swing with all these, I'm going to attack with all these, and you can't do that. You got to do it one at a time just because of maybe effects on cards, and you have to let stuff resolve, and just so nothing gets janked up, to put it that way. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to pretend that I am playing against a Linford player, and I'm going to show you guys a couple examples of what happens in combat and how combat works. So I'm going to be putting up on the screen a blown up image of Prison Guard. You will see that Prison Guard has 300 attack. Now, you as the attacking player, the thing that you need to pay attention to the most is the attack value of the card that you are attacking with and the health of the card that you are attacking. So for just display purposes, I'm going to go over a couple scenarios. Here you have a battle card from the Kingdom of Linford, Frontman. I'm going to be putting him up on the screen so he's a little bit bigger. You will see that he has 100 health. So if Prison Guard were to attack Frontman, Prison Guard would win, and Frontman would die and go to the graveyard. The next card that I'm going to put up is Lancer. Lancer, you will see, has 300 health. Now the way combat works is if the card that is being attacked has equal health, the attacking card is destroyed. So obviously, me as the person that is attacking with Prison Guard, this would not be a smart idea for me to attack Lancer. So if Prison Guard attacked Lancer, both of these cards would actually be destroyed. And so you obviously do not want to do that unless you are okay with kind of making a trade and both of your cards being destroyed. I realize that I maybe said that a little weird, so I'll say that one more time. If your attack equals the health of the card that you are attacking, both cards are destroyed. Lastly, I'll put up this card, Caravan Horse, which for those of you that are gonna end up playing as Linford, this is a very good card to have. But regardless, you'll see that Caravan Horse's health is at 400. So now, if I were to attack with Prison Guard and attack Caravan Horse, because the health is 400 and my attack with Prison Guard is only 300, Prison Guard would actually die and Caravan Horse stays alive. So it would not be smart for me to attack Caravan Horse unless there was some weird ability where it says if this card dies in combat, do A, B, or C. And so that is kind of the general idea of combat. Now a couple things I will point out. So let's say you are attacking a legend, or in this case, let's say you're attacking a sacred. This is where bleed comes into play. So you'll notice on Ancient Priest, he has the ability bleed. And like I said in the previous video, or 2 videos before, all legends have the ability bleed at this moment, and all sacreds at this moment have the ability bleed. So the way bleed changes combat is, let's say Prison Guard is attacking Ancient Priest. So Prison Guard, he has 300 attack, and Ancient Priest has 1200 health. And so obviously Prison Guard would easily die, and he would just die, and Ancient Priest would still be alive. But bleed changes the way that combat is done. If a card has bleed, whether it be a legend, another battle card, or a sacred, the way combat works is simply the attack value of the attacking battle card simply just brings down the health. So if Prison Guard were to attack Ancient Priest, Prison Guard does not die because Ancient Priest has bleed, and rather Ancient Priest's health goes from 1200 to 900. And the same case would be for the sacred. If Prison Guard were to attack River of Blessing, the health would simply go from 14 to 1100, and Prison Guard does not die because River of Blessing has bleed. I will point out, even though I'm not going into all of the abilities, bleed is the only ability in the game that cannot be taken away. Okay, so now it's time for the recoup phase. The recoup phase is your chance to play any additional cards if you have any Magicka remaining. So in last week's video, we had drawn our opening hand, and we had actually drawn a token. And so spending our 5 Magicka, we paid 3 to put Prison Guard on the field, and we also paid 2 to put the token of 2 on the field. So we have 0 Magicka left. But what this is a good time to do is, if you do have any Magicka left, and let's say all your battle cards got destroyed just because that was the best thing for you to do, and you have any Magicka left over, you could, for example, let's say you had 5 left over, we could play Outpost Tower just to kind of set up at least a little defense for the next turn, or possibly just extend how good your turn was. If you have any secret spells, you could lay those down for free right now, or you could have done that during your prepare phase. And that will kind of wrap up the end of your turn, and there's no sense in kind of flashing over for the next thing, but the end of your turn is called the end phase, and the end phase is where you simply end your turn and you pass play to the person that you are playing with. There are cards though that will deal with the end phase, and it's important that you make sure that you understand which phase you are in, whether it's cards that you are playing or as an opponent, your opponent needs to know what phase you're in so they know what cards to play as well. So that is essentially the order of play. One thing I forgot to go over is what happens when a sacred is destroyed. So for example, let's say the Linford player, for example, let's say Linford is, whoever's playing with Linford, it is that person's attack phase turn. And let's say they have 2 battle cards on the field. So they have Frontman and Lancer. Now let's say River of Blessing has hardly any health left. And so the way a sacred is destroyed and the way that looks like is, so let's say Lancer attacks Prison Guard, and Lancer will easily kill Prison Guard. And so Prison Guard will go to the graveyard, and Lancer is still on the field. Now let's say River of Blessing only has, let's just say, 200 health, and Frontman attacks, which Frontman has 300 health. That sacred is destroyed, and the sacred is just set to the side. It does not go in your graveyard. Your next sacred, as the player that just lost their sacred, does not get revealed until the combat phase, or until their turn starts again. And that's even before your draw phase. So before you take your draw phase, that's when you reveal your next sacred. So even if this Linford player had all 5 battle card slots filled, they cannot just continue to deal damage to the next sacred and then the next sacred after that. So once that player would end their turn, before I would start my draw phase, I would then reveal my next sacred, and then I could begin to start my turn. Okay, this last phase I saved for the last, just because it is slightly difficult to explain, and I might even have a hard time explaining it in the video, but we'll go ahead and just take it and see where it goes. So even though this is technically the first phase of your turn, it's kind of a weird phase in the sense of your turn as a player does not technically start till the beginning of your draw phase. The counter phase, as I put it up on the screen, is your chance to play secret spells on your opponent's turn. And these secret spells can be played at any moment, at any time, depending on what the card says. A question you might have is, well, how do I know I have a secret spell rather than just a normal spell? Well, if a spell is a secret, it will have the ability secret written right on the card. Now, the way a secret spell works is you simply just lay it down, face down, in the secret slot, and you do not have to pay its magicka cost until you go to use it. So let's say it's my opponent's turn. And during your counter phase, so as soon as you end your phase and you pass play to your opponent, your magicka resets. So let's take our example right here where I have the token 2. So with your base magicka of 5 per turn and this token that I now have 7 magicka that I can use. And now my opponent has officially started their turn and I have this secret spell that I can use, which I'll put it up on the screen, is the spell of block, which simply says cancel an attack. So let's say my opponent has taken their turn and they now enter their attack phase and they go to attack me with a card. Let's say they have 1 battle card on the field, and if they are able to successfully attack my sacred, they will kill my sacred and I will go into phase 2, and I don't want that to happen. So at that moment I can spend the magicka cost of block, which is 4, to cancel that attack. Now, magicka can be wavering because there's cards that affect the amount of magicka that you have, so you have to be careful on how much you're spending. So let's say, just though for this purpose, this video, so I use the spell block, and after I use it, it goes in my graveyard. When it goes to the beginning of my draw phase, because I've already spent 4, I only have 3 magicka left to wrap up my turn. So you have to be smart when you're using your secret spells to make sure that you still have enough to actually do stuff during your prepare phase and your recoup phase, or maybe that's the thing that you need to do. And again, your magicka will reset once you have officially ended your end phase and your opponent starts their turn. Hope that all makes sense. There's a couple things that are a little difficult that take additional videos. Now is the time in the video where I like to share a quick devotional, just because my faith is something very important to me, but I don't want to take up too much of your time, so we'll jump right in. I'm going to be putting the verse right up on the screen in this morning, or this evening, this afternoon, whenever you're watching this video. Morning for me as I'm recording this video. I'm going to be reading from 1 Samuel chapter 14, starting at verse 7. It says, "His armor bearer responded, 'Do what is in your heart. You choose. I'm right here with you, whatever you decide.'" The reason why I wanted to share this verse is because it's a hot topic word for my generation, and that word is community. And I could spend a whole 30-minute video talking about what Scripture says and pointing out on how, as believers, as Christians, we should always be in fellowship and in community with each other. That should actually be one of the most attractive things about Christianity, is the fact of how well we love each other and how well we support each other. And granted, Christianity hasn't always done the best job of doing that, myself being part of that problem sometimes. But what I like about that verse is it really shows the power and the impact and what can happen and when you have great relationships, intentional relationships with other people that believe in Jesus, and also those that don't, because there's something quite powerful. If you go on to read later, a couple verses after that, you'll see that this armor bearer, who was a friend of Jonathan, they go and 2 guys kill 20 men, which is something that you would see in a movie, you know, that kind of heroic moment. So for those of you that are interested in just this whole Jesus thing, if you want to put it that way, my encouragement and my challenge to you is, if you have someone that also believes in Jesus that you are friends with, what is your loyalty to them? Are you there in the trenches when they're going through a hard time, or are you only there when things are going good? Do you actually have intentional relationships that you are a part of? And if you don't, I encourage you to do that. That is something that my wife and I are trying to do as well, be intentional with who we are friends with, excuse me, and also being intentional on reaching out to people and, you know, sacrificing our time and investing into people, and at the end of the day, being able to say to those people, whatever your heart is, I am there with you as well, as long as we're doing it for God. I I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Stay tuned for next week, where I'm hoping to maybe show off for the first time what the official look of set 1, The Beginnings, looks like. Ordered some stuff off of the Game Crafter a couple weeks ago, and it should hopefully be in the mail relatively soon, probably after the recording of this video, probably before the posting though of this video. And then after that, going to start going in depth on what the different decks look like, and then start doing some gameplay videos. With that, thanks for watching.